My mom hit a pole in her van.
And I hit a tree in my truck.
Let's talk about that. Good morning, Chia Lincoln. It is Wednesday, February 9th, 2011.
Thank you for joining us. I'm having some car trouble. Check engine light. Boop, boop, boop. It's been on for a while, but I got to get my car inspected.
Yours makes a beeping noise, huh?
No, it glares at me so much. It's as if it's talking to me.
Okay.
Do something about me. Something could be terribly wrong.
Check me.
If you go to Advance Auto or any other auto parts place, they will do a diagnostic and tell you the code. Say, oh, this code means something, or this code means, oh, you just need something simple. I can give you the part or whatever.
Or like, you've won
$1 million.
A free, a year supply of mufflers or something like that.
Or new car scent.
If you get the right code, you want an air filter. You know, you need to replace that air filter. Have you seen how dirty that air filter is? You really need to replace it, but you don't have to replace it because you won one for free because you had the right code.
It wasn't the air filter. It was the EGR valve. Who knew I even had one? But he was like, it's right here. You can probably just take it out and clean it. And I'm thinking, oh no, don't tell me this because now I'll feel like less of a man if I don't try. And then he sells me a new valve, shows me, where the bolts are and all that jazz. Then I go on the internet back here, and there's YouTube videos on cleaning out an EGR valve. And I'm starting to believe, I can do this. So I get home and let me say it this way.
Yeah, however you want to say it.
Let me say it. Let me say it in another language. That's how I feel when I try to fix my car.
Okay.
I never feel as vulnerable as when I've removed a part from my car, and I'm pretty certain I'm not going to be able to get it back on.
Right.
So, but thank goodness I was able to get it back on, but the check engine light is still on. Now I'm hoping it'll cycle through and eventually it'll go off and get my car inspected, but
you proved your manhood a little bit. I mean, you were able to take off the part and put the part back on.
It wasn't easy to get to either.
I mean, in my family...
I may be dressed like Where's Waldo today, but I can fix my car.
You definitely don't look like a mechanic type. Just being honest with you, Link. In my family, my dad had a philosophy. When something's wrong with the car, you take it to the guy with the mullet. Nearest guy with a mullet. You take it to him and be like, I don't know, even if you own a place that does stuff to cars, but here's my car. This is what's wrong with it. Or you figure out what's wrong with it, Mullet Man, and then give it back to me, and there'll be some exchange of currency.
If his hands are like really grimy, that's always a good sign. Yeah.
Dirty-handed Mullet Man is going to fix your car. He's going to know exactly, you need to get that air filter fixed. I'm going to tell you right now, that air filter is a problem.
Now, I can replace the air filter.
So we didn't have this mentality that we fixed our own cars. Now, I have tried in my adulthood to do this a couple of times, but the one time I really tried to fix a car, I totaled it. It was a Dodge Intrepid. I totaled it.
He's not exaggerating.
I don't want to tell that story. That's another GMCL episode. But one of the best memories I have of family car troubles was my mother.
Grade school.
I was in grade school, and we had this awesome Dodge Caravan. I mean, it was one of the first minivans. We were one of the first people in the neighborhood to have a minivan. It's like, look at that crazy, like a spaceship.
It made you go like this when you think about it.
It felt very cool being in it, and it was white, and then it had a fake wood panel stripe all the way around. I mean, I felt like a king riding in this thing. It was like I almost felt as if I was being pulled around by horses, but I was in a minivan.
Or at least in a wooden sled. So
we were, my mom was at the McDonald's by herself, because we only heard about this story through her interpretation of it. And all I know is that she was, just flying around the McDonald's parking lot, and she ran smack dab right into one of those light poles that's huge light poles that's concrete at the bottom. And I just remember seeing the car in the driveway later that day as I got home from school. And I just saw there's a big V, and it wasn't part of the design. It was a big V in the very front of the hood. The bumper and the whole front of the car had been bent in.
Oh, just put some wood paneling in there. It'll look good.
Some wood filler. All you need is some wood filler for that right there. So we took it to the nearest guy with a mullet, and he did what he could do to fix it. It was not totaled.
Yeah.
But there were some side effects. A few weeks later, we're all sleeping around 3 a.m. We typically slept at the McLaughlin household. And all I remember is that in the middle of the night, I just hear, "Hi!" I'm like, somebody is beeping the horn outside in the middle of the night. And
how rude can you be?
it sure sounds like the minivan's horn. Because it's, I mean, we didn't have a whole lot of people living close to us. I was like, that's our car. And so I like I'm like, well, surely it'll stop. But then I'm like, well, who's doing it? Is it one of my parents? So I get up, I go into my brother's room.
I'm locked outside.
I go into my brother's room and he's got the same look on his face. He's thinking something's not right. And then we go downstairs and everybody is awake. And my dad's like, first we're just thinking somebody has broken into the van and they're beeping the horn. It's like, it's the most illogical thing that you could think. There is a burglar out there in the front yard and he's making his approach.
It's an elaborate burglar scheme.
Yeah.
If I blow the horn, they'll all come out. I'll rush in, get their stuff.
It's a totally counterintuitive burglar scheme. It's like the home robbery in the 80s started with beeping the person's horn for a really long period of time. Well, we go out there and apparently the burglar is invisible because the car, and he's able to pass through walls because the minivan was locked.
No, there wasn't a burglar. She had hit a pole.
That's right. We had a new side effect on the car, and that was that the horn would suddenly go off. So anyway, my dad goes out there and he beats on the thing, and eventually it just kind of stops on its own, right?
Oh yeah.
And so
it's kind of like when your television broke, like an old television.
You just hit it. But in the subsequent weeks, there were a few embarrassing moments because of the horn that would suddenly blow.
It was a ticking time bomb, basically, right? A ticking horn bomb.
The most embarrassing time was, I remember, you remember I didn't ride the bus to school. My parents dropped me off at school, and there was a little roundabout in the back of Buies Creek Elementary School.
Oh, yeah.
And you'd be there, and it'd be like, you kind of be going kind of slow. And, this is a vulnerable moment because you're with your parents. You're a little embarrassed to begin with just because you're at that awkward stage where you're embarrassed to be with your parents.
It's like cruising with your parents.
And the one thing that you want to do, and when you're in the roundabout and you're about to be dropped off, is I don't want to do anything to embarrass myself. I don't want to trip as I fall out of the car. I don't want my mama to kiss me.
Oh no!
I'm making my debut every day with my book bag. Of course, back then it was one shoulder, and I'm going to go into the school.
And I'm getting out of a wood panel minivan.
Yeah, look at me. It's
my head's going like this.
Yes.
I don't want to trip. I don't want to get kissed. I want to go to school. I want to be great.
I walked like that pretty much through most of my life. Now, this was not a good day, though, because when we were about halfway through the roundabout...
The horn?
Of course, all the other parents are thinking, who is this woman that is this impatient that she's in the roundabout and she's not beeping the horn, she's laying on the horn.
I gotta get rid of these kids! We gotta get these kids into class!
So, turns out that my mom wasn't beeping the horn or blowing the horn or honking the horn, as some of you have pointed out is the correct term. The horn was honking itself. And I was sinking in my seat.
It's like the principal comes out with a shotgun, puts it down.
I was like, oh, this cannot be happening.
Ultimately, they got the van fixed, right?
Well, ultimately, the horn ended up stopping honking. And then, I just kind of brushed it off. And I was like, I don't remember what I told my friends.
But eventually,
we took it to a guy with a mullet. He was like, oh, I see what the problem is. You see over there? It's your air filter. If you just take the air filter and wrap it around the horn mechanism,
it'll buffer.
It'll buffer the whole thing. And then it'll beep occasionally.
Muffle.
But it'll be like... So the guy with the mullet fixed it, and we ended up being okay.
I want to quickly share that your mom is not alone in hitting things she shouldn't.
I love you, Mama. She watches every episode of GMCL, so...
I love you too.
It wasn't your fault. Well, the hitting the pole was your fault, but the horn, that was just a side effect.
Don't feel bad. I hit a tree in college. I was coming around a corner this way, and there was one of the school buses, the Wolf Line, NC State buses, was coming out. And I knew when he came out, he was going to turn right, but he was going to come into my lane a little bit.
Wide right.
So I was being smart, so I let over a little bit.
Yeah, that's smart.
So that I swung wide so that the Wolf Line bus would not hit me head on.
Yes, you're saving your own life here.
And I was also going around a curve to the right. What I didn't realize was, for some reason, it was like the road, bus's lane, my lane, and then a cement lip.
Otherwise known as a curb.
A curbish thing. And then a drop-off.
Yeah.
So I'm getting over. I'm looking at the bus. I'm not looking at this curb that I didn't know was there. And it was that same 1987 Nissan pickup that the right speaker doesn't work because Rhett opened it when I was stuck.
That was me.
When I had near-death experiences a few episodes back. So I'm going over. I'm listening to Lionel Richie. It's blaring. Mm-hmm. I don't have power steering on this truck.
Yeah, that's a mistake.
Front right wheel catches the curb, and boom, without power steering, it's just like, whoo, it immediately goes all the way over. And, with my cat-like reflexes, I immediately cut it right back straight so I don't go down this ravine, basically, into Pullen Park.
And to die, yeah. You could have died.
So I whooped it back around, and boom, immediately, I nail a tree head on.
Did your horn go off?
No. The horn did not go off. It's just like everything immediately just stopped. For a second, I thought I was dead. It was like, but it wasn't silent. The truck had quit. Mm-hmm. But Lionel Richie was blaring all night long, all night.
Yeah, he was there for you.
And the bus kept going. Called a tow truck to pull me up off of the curb and off of the tree. Towed me back, cranked it back up, drove off. Everything was cool. 3 months later,
the horn went off.
My engine blew up because the radiator was leaking. Should have called the Mullet Man.
You got to get these things fixed, people. You got to get the entire car inspected after an accident.
Take care of your business.
You never know what's going to happen. Speaking of inspections, let's check in with Lincoln. Boy, he's not dead yet, but he's got at least 1 foot in the grave.
Lincoln, we do appreciate all you've done for us and are continuing to do for us, even in the state you're in.
Yes.
We appreciate you for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow.